I made it so each and every trade good in Europa Universalis is represented by one single nation. And this, of course, is going to make for some horrible border war. But it'll get better in time, right? Right? The main goal of this video is to see what nation is able to come out on top using the benefits of their respective trade good, and the results may surprise you. If you, dear viewer, enjoy this scenario and you want to see more, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe, and ding the little bell so you get updated for future content. The natural question of today is, what is your favorite trade good in EU4, and what trade goods do you try to maximize? How do you do it? What buildings do you prefer on which province? Let us know in the comments below. Now, I didn't say it in the intro because I'm saving it for here. I want to give you a quick rundown of what trade goods are owned by what nation. We spawned in coal and gave it all to Great Britain because, of course, coal is Great Britain, though I think you could probably make an argument to give it to Germany because Germany is so reliant on that very clean coal nowadays, especially since they shut down their nuclear power plants for reasons. And a quick aside, 1 second into the video, to let you guys know that if you do not agree with nuclear energy, you are wrong and you are part of the problem. Just so you know, all of the cloth of the world has gone to the Netherlands. All of the fish of the world has gone to Iceland because the cod wars were very funny. Every fur province has gone to the Canadians because the Canadian beaver is prolific. All of the grain has gone to Poland. All livestock, including horses, has gone to the Great Horde. Naval supplies have all gone into the fjords of Norway. Every single grain of salt in the world goes towards the Turks, because I know that's how I feel about them. Wine goes to the French, of course. Wool goes to the black sheep, QQ. Copper goes to Sweden, naturally. And of course, the nation of blood and iron, Germany, gets all of the iron. Ivory goes to Ashanti. And this trade good here, which I cannot say lest I be demonetized by YouTube, will all go to Dahomies, not to be confused with the good version of Dahomies, the channel members who support the channel. And if you want to become one of them, you can right now by clicking the join button below the video. You get early access to all the videos on this channel. Likewise, you will get exclusive roles and chats in the Discord where I tend to be more active. So if that appeals to you, check out the join button below the video. We split China into two nations. You have Ming that has Chinaware, and then you have Qing that has tea. Spices have all gone to Malaya. All of the cocoa of the world has gone to Colombia. Get it? Cocoa? Cocaina? Cocoa?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I don't know. I thought it was funny when I came up with it. Got that coffee Arabica over here. All of the coffee in the world going to Arabia. Sugar for Brazil. Of course, all of the cotton has to go to the United States. And the tobacco goes to Cuba because they got them beautiful Cuban cigars. Actually not illegal in America anymore now that they dropped that, but they were illegal for a very long time. Dyes going to Hindustan. Silk for Persia for those Persian rugs. Tropical wood for Siam. Bohemian crystal glass for Bohemia. Mams going with paper, that papyrus. The two cloves provinces we gave to Ternate over here in the Spice Islands. And of course, you had to give all of the gold to Spain because who else would get it? I probably would have said this in the intro, but this is probably my most highly requested video ever. So I really hope you guys appreciate it. I would love to shoot for, say, 4,000 likes on this video. And if you guys appreciate it, please make sure you do like it. It helps out a ton in the YouTube algorithm, and mostly it lets me know that you guys actually appreciate it and I can make more content like this. If you have a suggestion for a fun scenario like this, leave it in the comments down below. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe while you're down there. Regardless, you guys know how this works. Let's turn it on up to speed 5. Now, this video is not sponsored, but I do want to let you guys know that if you have an itch to play some strategy games like EU4 or other PDX games and you don't already own them, then you can check out my curated game store at nexus.gg. It's going to be linked in the description. On my store, there's a lot more than just PDX titles, and they have sales from time to time so you can snag some discounts and also support your boy in the process. As I said, check out nexus.gg. Link is in the description. And of course, before we get too far into it, I should tell you who the great powers are. We have Poland very much well out in front, all of the grain in the world, with the Great Horde and their livestock following closely, but right behind them, the Netherlands with all the cloth, the wool of QQ sub 1,000, Norway at 800, France with all of the vine over in the 750 range, Iceland with over 1,100, and then the Ottomans still in the number 8 spot because salt is inevitable with the Ottomans. Now, of course, early on, whenever there are wars that are declared, like Bohemia going for their cores over here, which I probably should have removed, but I don't know. I think it's kind of funny to not have it. They are attacking Norway, who is basically spread out everywhere. And it's just going to be like that. That's how these early wars are going to look. I don't know if we will actually ever see land consolidated. In fact, there's actually quite a few wars going on. Basically, everybody in the world is at war with somebody or other. QQ has actually formed a couple of subjects because of all of the land that they have around the world. So that's pretty funny. And with all of these wars going on, it really could be anybody's game. It's hard to say that any one nation is going to pick it up and just run with it. So I'm curious who you guys think will come out on top. I really lean towards Poland just maintaining their dominance because they actually get extra bonuses. A lot of people don't know this. Trade goods actually give bonuses as well. Like grain gives plus 0.5 force limit for every province. So a nation like Poland has a 156 force limit, which is insane. Compare that to Norway's 34, despite still being in the great power list. Like that is very crazy numbers. Cloth is super useful for development, so a nation like the Netherlands could possibly get caught up pretty quickly, but we'll see exactly how that goes. But let us know who you guys think will win and why in the comments below. I should also mention that I changed the religion of every province in the world to match their overlord. Otherwise there would just be like massive unrest and every nation would just have these crazy amount of separatist rebels. So this is to give them a little bit of early stability, make it more of a nation versus nation rather than a nation versus stability issue. At least early on, I think that is the appropriate move. We have Sunnis, we have Shias, we have Catholics, we have Protestants. We've even got one Hindu lad here in the middle of Germany in Erfurt. We also have some Buddhist representation and some Confucian representation because that's how we do it here on Chewbert. Everyone is welcome, except for you, Kyle. You're a punk. Spain is also probably going to have some issues with inflation, considering the fact that about half of their income is just from gold alone. It's probably going to be hard for them. They're going to spend basically all of their admin mana on keeping it down. It might be worth it because they're also going to be filthy rich at all times. It appears that the American cotton is very coveted. We've got Canada, Germany, and the Netherlands, all three guaranteeing the independence of the United States of America. I think that's funny. Also, they are guaranteeing the independence of Hindustan and Tirupura, who I think just popped out as a rebel state of some other nation. Meanwhile, they're allied to Otomo, who is a one province minor over here. America trying to get in on that anime a couple hundred years early. And you can see at a quick glance, there is definitely some rebel issues going on. Basically, every nation in the world is having a problem handling rebels because they can't get their armies from one portion of their country to another. So there's going to be a lot of issues with that. Plus, you got to remember the devastation from these occupations. It's going to lead to some pretty nutty numbers when you think about how much devastation affects the economy of a nation. And it's going to have long-term implications as well. Yeah, I got nothing. I have no idea why the Great Horde is having such a hard time. They're going through a tribal succession crisis. They have -3 stability. They have like no horde unity. They have very bad prestige. They're losing a ton of money. So I don't know. I didn't do anything. The AI is just really struggling, and they have so many rebels that are pushing through and devastating a ton of their lands. Meanwhile, Poland has a lot of stuff sorted out on their unrest front, but they're losing land over here to separatist rebels. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of new nations pop out. Of course, we have our major guys, but just take a look at how many little nations have popped out across this. A lot of them are colonies, of course, but a lot of these guys are like little 2, 3, 4, 5 provinces, nations that have popped out. You have Muscovy that's over here. So it'll make things a little more interesting because you'll get a little bit of like regional alliance blocks, but I don't know how it can be regional when Poland has land here, 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 here over in the New World. It's like they're everywhere. So what is regional? Hard to say. And yeah, it would appear that the French with their new strong mission tree are definitely going to be pushing through it. They're already making good progress towards uniting the France region. So it really depends on who can get a power base first. You can see if you take a look here, Netherlands has passed Poland just because they've embraced the Renaissance. But it's hard to say. I mean, we may end up seeing, like I said, the Netherlands coming out on top just because cloth is very strong. But at the same time, Poland gives better military bonuses. So it's really going to be an economy versus military sort of game, I think, in the long term. Oh, it's such a missed opportunity. I also totally forgot that I gave incense to the Pope because, you know, Catholics and incense, right? Like that makes sense. And it's almost 1500. And yeah, you can see the Great Horde. It's definitely spiraling. They're spiraling incredibly hard. Between rebels and getting attacked by basically everybody, they are on the verge of bankruptcy. It's going to happen. And I imagine it's going to happen multiple times because they are not coming back from this. So the first major loss is going to be the Great Horde. Turns out that livestock and the supply limit is not useful enough to keep a nation above waters, especially when you consider that livestock is one of the lowest price trade goods in the world. And Poland and the Netherlands both continue to just skyrocket with development. Poland almost to 3,000 and the Netherlands almost to 2. It's anybody's game, but I'm definitely going to let some time go by because aside from people developing and going to war, taking a couple of provinces, a lot of people are trying to unite their home region. Like I think Germany is working and France is definitely working over here. Aside from that, not a whole lot is happening. There is a ton of new nations that are popping out. Like last time I looked, there was like maybe 20 or 30. Now there's probably 40 or 50 extra nations that have popped out. So things are definitely messy on that front. Let's give them some time and see if things clean up a bit. And another 50 years later, Poland is pretty stagnant, but the Netherlands has gained like 400 development. So that is definitely something to keep our eyes on. Britain now is in the great powers as well. And you have to remember that they have colonization unlocked. They have exploration expansion ideas. So it's definitely going to be good for them because they're going to get to colonize a ton of land for free in South America and North America. But I don't know if that's going to help them catch up quite enough. And now here we have Canada. The dictatorship of Canada. Could make a joke about this, but I'm sure a lot of people would get very upset about it, so I won't. But I will leave you guys to your imaginations and decide what that joke might be. Meanwhile, it continues to be absolute chaos throughout the entire world with rebel occupations and then war occupations left and right for basically every nation. Nobody seems to get a hand up except for maybe the Dutch because of all of the developing going on. But yeah, it's still pretty messy. Now, a little after 1600, absolutism right around the corner. The old world doesn't look any better. In fact, I would say it probably looks a little bit worse with all the new tags that have spawned, but there's been a bit of colonization. We're going to take a look at some of that stuff. Spain has clearly done okay over in the African front. Over in the New World, it is a definitely different story. We have Mexican Brazil, more on that in a moment, Spanish, Cuban, French, British, and Dutch colonies for the most part, rounding out the majority of the South American development. But North America is where things get pretty interesting for me. A lot of colonization, like I said, but there's definitely some new tags as well. Cuba, which is a different tag from the Cuba we had in 1444, is a Brazilian culture with a French leader. And meanwhile, over here on the East Coast, we have Florida, which is formed by the original Cuba, who is Mexican culture. Of course, we have the true Mexican nation, which is a Mexican culture with a De Austria. Their leader's name is literally from Austria. And as I said, absolutism 20 months away. Netherlands definitely taking it way out in front. Poland actually not even in the great powers. France has over 2,000 development, and they are the only one aside from the Netherlands. Spain, despite their best efforts in colonization, not doing well, actually getting passed by Germany in terms of development. Norway and Great Britain with over 1,000 development, and then Iceland and Italy rounding out the top 8. And in terms of trading bonuses, obviously the English Channel is going to be a major hub for that, and the Dutch definitely pulling out in front because of all the trade they're able to collect in that node. With a good portion of the development of Britain, northern France, the Netherlands, of course, and northern Germany, definitely looks like the Netherlands may end up winning this one. And in 1821, things definitely look different than it did in 1444. I wouldn't necessarily say it looks better, but it definitely looks different. Of course, we have the revolutionary Netherlands finishing well out in front, almost double the development of anybody else in the game, including revolutionary Germany, Spain, Mexico, and the Papal States, all with 2,500 or more development. Milan, actually, the sleeper pick that was released from somebody earlier in the game, coming in the 6th spot with Great Britain and Florida. Florida man finishing out the 8th spot. And of course, most of the dominance that came for the Netherlands came from their market share of cloth. Early on, that is going to give them a huge economic buff, and then they just allowed that economic buff to snowball, collecting most of the trade of basically every trade good in the world that is being steered into the English Channel. Though a definite special shout out to Great Britain, who actually did pretty good job towards uniting the British Isles, and I'm sure that the economic buff that they had from coal early on definitely helped out, though I don't think they got to build furnaces until later in the game anyway, so it's more just the value of the trade good early on, not necessarily the furnaces. As I said, Milan finishes in the great power list, doing incredibly well, uniting almost all of Italy, doing the Risorgimento as Milan. So that's pretty sweet. I like to see that. I don't know if you can call them a sleeper pick if they didn't even exist. This is like, they shouldn't have happened, but they did, and they overcame the odds, and I give them props for that. This time around, Russia was the Netherlands and Kazan, and then a few random nations that are just spread throughout. Poland exists, so you can't count them completely out, though. They didn't do much at all. Yeah, the fall from grace for Poland was not good. They finished with 102 development. They were the #1 great power in 1444, so safe to say grain does not carry a nation, though in real world, it kind of does. At least it used to, but now not so much in this game. Funnily enough, most of the development of Germany was actually over here in China and the Tartary, so that's pretty good. They definitely made good use of the land over here. The nation of incense, the Papal State, actually just kind of hung out over here. This was where most of their development was in 1444, and the Horn of Africa, Arabia, and part of Nubia is all Papal State. So that's pretty cool. I'll give them props. They did well, considering the fact that they just exist alone. When you are like just a low amount of dev in the 1444, you don't have a good chance. It's always the majors that generally do pretty good. But Deus Volt and all that, and they held on, and the Papal State did pretty good. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Spain with their capital over here in Zimbabwe. And the New World is a mess with Cuban La Plata, Mexican La Plata, Dutch La Plata. We got Paraguay up here with Mexican Brazil, Dutch Colombia. So definitely a whole lot of stuff going on in South America. And North America was Pacifico Norte, and then Mexico, the United States, which is is just like the heartlands, with Florida and Osage, or however this is, this native Protestant nation doing their thing over here on the eastern portions of America. Up north, it's actually all Quebec, and that's pretty funny. But of course, there's a couple of natives that I guess popped out from rebels as well. And then Iceland's colonies over here hanging out on the east coasts of Canada. Religiously, a large portion of the world is Catholic. I would say probably the majority of the world is Catholic, though. Protestant did okay. And then we also have a couple of Orthodox nations that you can't forget about them. But it looks like Shia and specifically Sunni are basically gone. There's very few provinces in the world left that follow those faiths. Though we do have a couple of guys down in the south that maybe have a little bit of a weird obsession with feet. And on the cultural front, we've got some cool stuff. We have the Ulster Scots existing in this timeline, and Austrians were pushed out of Austria by Bavarians, so that's pretty based. And it seems that the debate of who is the superior Belgian between Flemish and Walloon has been settled, and it is definitely Flemish, which is interesting because Flemish is basically just Dutch. The Poles definitely pushed well past Poland into Lithuania and all the way over into like Belarus. And of course, the Castilians ended up converting quite a bit of the land here in the southern portions of Africa. Southern America is mostly English, Brazilian, and Mexican. But of course, there's a lot of Dutch up here in Colombia and Venezuela. American and English culture make up the majority of the development in the central portions of Northern America, with Mexican, Castilian, and you cannot forget about Massachusetts over here in the whatever New England / Canada region, which I guess is a thing as well. I assume that these are native cultures. So, but as far as what is the best trade good if represented by a single nation in EU4, cloth. The answer is cloth. I hope you enjoyed this run. If you did, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for plenty more content to come. And a huge shout out to the patrons and channel members who keep this channel going. If you want early access to these videos and exclusive Discord benefits, make sure you check out the link in the description or the join button below the video.